Hey guys! So as opposed to last week's Sketchbook Sunday video, where I really pushed the supplies that I was using, in today's video I wanted to push the actual subject matter. So I hope you guys enjoy the process, and I will see you there. So the beginning of today's video is a little bit different than anything I've done in the past, since instead of working on the actual pages of the sketchbook itself, I'm actually working on the cover. This is something that I've found extremely enjoyable to do from time to time, and it really seems to make you more comfortable with the sketchbook itself. And personally, it always makes me a bit more excited to work in it, just because there's something about having a sketchbook that no one else does. Once you decorate the cover of your sketchbook, it's no longer something that anyone could purchase. It belongs to you. And I don't always do this with my sketchbooks, but I tend to if the cover has a lot of text on it, or I just am becoming bored of the way the current cover looks. Something else I also like to incorporate onto the cover of my sketchbooks is a number, and this number is the sketchbook number. So this is my 6th sketchbook that I will be filling, and that is within the time frame of about 1.5 years, which I'm pretty satisfied with, considering the fact that before that I had never even filled a sketchbook at all. Now, moving on to the first page that I'm working on in this sketchbook, I wanted to try an angle of a head that I was slightly unfamiliar with. And this is something I've been thinking about lately because I do a lot of front-facing heads, I do a lot of side profiles and a lot of 3/4 views, but other than that, I don't really push myself as far as angles are concerned. And I really want to break away from that idea and get better at being able to visualize how the actual head looks in different situations. And so for this character, I wanted him to look up and slightly to the side, and I tried to add a bit more detail to this illustration than I typically do, and that becomes much easier when you're using fine liners as opposed to a brush pen. I think just because it's a lot easier to get into tiny little areas without feeling like you're going to completely ruin your drawing with a heavy-handed brush stroke. And for something that I'm not really used to doing, I don't think it turned out all that badly. I think there are definitely some things I would do differently, and actually after I ended this recording, I did end up fixing his jawline a little bit because it was a little too sharp and a little off, and after that it looked even more satisfying. One of the things that I really had in mind when I started doing this drawing is that I wanted to use ink wash. And the real reason for this is that I am considering using ink wash of varying light and dark values in Inktober this year. Since last year I just did a brush pen and a single color of a marker, and I wanted to sort of push myself even further this year. Last year, I hadn't really been drawing for all that long, and the finished pieces were not really something that I would be proud of now. But keeping that in mind, I really want to push myself this year so that I can be proud of the finished pieces. The second page that I'm working on in today's Sketchbook Sunday video was meant as a practice for clothing specifically. And this is something I've mentioned in a couple of other videos prior, where I've noticed that I'm starting to slack a little bit in the way the folds of clothing actually fall, and I just add in random folds where I think they might be, as opposed to where I know they would be. And so I did this photo study of clothing that was very oversized and drapey and had a lot of folds. And something else I've really found myself trying to do lately is force myself to use new supplies. And by new supplies, I really mean supplies I already have, but haven't really used to the full extent of their capabilities. And part of this is thanks to the fact that I have sort of dedicated myself, quote unquote, to doing monthly favorite videos. And if I stick to the same supplies, then I'm not going to have anything interesting to talk about in the next video. So it sort of keeps me on my toes and forces me to push outside of my comfort zone. And considering the fact that this drawing in particular was a clothing study, I think it did turn out all right. Even though if I had the chance to do it over, I probably would have put a little bit more time into the planning of the hair, because I think there's something about it that just feels slightly off. And the second illustration that is found on this page was thanks to a photocopy that I had done of a drawing earlier in the sketchbook that I ended up scanning in and doing a few color studies with Crayola markers, and I picked my favorite and taped it in. And this is something that I've also been trying to experiment with lately, the concept of reusing older drawings and finding new ways to incorporate them. And I might actually do a video on this at some point in the future, but I definitely need some time to think about how I would best be able to approach something like that. And the details of this page were added with Prismacolor pencils, and even though I've been pretty firmly stuck on using a white Prismacolor pencil, I wanted to add a couple of different colors to this piece in particular, just to see how the different colors added interest to the piece. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you were inspired to create something in any way, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. I'm like very high-key stressed right now, but I need to have something to do to distract myself from the stress, which is editing this video. So I'm hardly awake, and you can probably see it in my eyes. I look glazed over.